We've been talking about the Department of Agriculture and the Environment throughout the programme, looking at some of the challenges its new minister faces, from climate change and waste recycling to farming and food production, all in the in-tray for Edwin Poots, who joins us now. Mr. Poots, a very good morning to you. Thank you for making time for us. There are short and long-term issues we need to deal with. Just a quick couple of short-term ones, but important ones. The CAP, single farm payments, end very shortly for Northern Ireland's farmers. What scheme will replace it and who will benefit?
Well, I'm bringing a legislative consent motion to the Assembly to deal with this year, and that will be a continuation of the existing scheme. Beyond that, that'll be a discussion that we'll have with the Assembly Committee, the Executive and colleagues, and indeed the interested bodies. And I believe that we should have a more production-based scheme, one which is particularly suited to the suckler cow and sheep sectors. And
so you're just for listen, you're opposed to the area payment, by which a payment is determined by the size of the farm.
Yes, I think that it should be on the basis of people who are actually farming, not on the basis of people who own land. And
how does that account for those people who work in hill farms, for example, where intense production is very difficult? We don't want to have intense production on the hill lands, and that's why we'd want to give them support through the likes of suckler cow premiums, sheep annual premium, and indeed to encourage afforestation where that is appropriate. We would like to see more afforestation on our lands, and I hope to make an announcement on that soon. Good. We'll come back to that because that's an important issue today. But the other short-term issue I want to ask you about has come up several times today. TB, do you favour a specific or a general cull on badgers?
Well, we're looking at it extensively, and the science that has been developed to this point can very clearly link the TB from the badger population to the TB in the bovine population. And there's a whole series of different strains of TB, and those are all linked to particular areas. And the tie is absolutely clear. So it is absolutely pointless that we're spending £40 million of public money taking cows out of the system and putting them back to be reinfected by a wildlife population that hasn't been culled.
I'm not quite sure whether you've told me you favour a general or a specific cull, though.
Well, that's something that we need to discuss, and it's a course of work that we need to complete within our own department, and indeed again with the Executive, because it's a controversial issue.
You have said that your number one priority is climate change. Is that so?
Yeah, well, absolutely. We're working on how we can actually reduce Northern Ireland's carbon footprint, and whether that's in agriculture or in other areas. We will work to do that extensively, and we will seek to ensure that Northern Ireland plays its bit in reducing its carbon footprint. There
are people in your own party who might be termed climate change doubters. What's your own assessment of the potential impact of climate change? Well,
logically, we can do things better. So whenever I was last Environment Minister, 2009 to 2011, we were producing, I think, in the single figures in terms of renewable energy. We're now up to 37% renewable energy as a result of things that we done at that time. We were down around the 20% in terms of our recycling. We're now around 50%. All of those things have improved dramatically, and there is a lot of growth to be made in the continuum. So the move away from combustion technology to new technologies is something that can happen and will make a major difference in terms of the amount of carbon that is produced.
But you accept that potentially the impact of climate change is catastrophic?
Well, we can see that there are many environmental catastrophes that are taking place, and we want to ensure that we do our bit.
That doesn't answer the question. Do you believe that climate change is potentially catastrophic?
Climate change can be completely, okay. Yes, it can be, yes.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the conundrum that you face. One of our commentators today talked about the shotgun marriage between environment and agriculture briefs. How do you seek to mend them together, to meld them together? I mean, we know that 27% of greenhouse gases come from the agriculture industry. We know that, or we are told that 90% of our protected areas are damaged by ammonia from farm pollution. How do you bring together, in the best possible way forward, the environment and the agricultural needs?
By using quality science and innovation to make the necessary changes. I believe that the agricultural industry is up for change, recognises the need for change, and recognises that there is technologies out there that can help them improve, and they're keen to embrace that. So let us work with the industry to carry out those improvements, and as a consequence, we should be able to maintain production, because remember, 10% of Northern Ireland's people who are employed in the agri-food sector. So it's a very important sector to the Northern Ireland economy. Yeah. And having a sustainable environment is critically important. Also, having a sustainable food policy is critically important in a world that has a growing population.
Yeah, we have the Committee on Climate Change today saying that it wants 20% of our landscape to be treed. You mentioned that, reforestation. The livestock to be reduced by something like 10%. Are those changes that the farming community in Northern Ireland is ready to face up to? Big challenges.
Well, I would like to test their assertions on the livestock reductions, and whether they have, qualitatively looked at the innovation and science that is available, which can allow us to reduce emissions whilst maintaining production. Because there wouldn't be much point in reducing food that's produced in the United Kingdom to import soybean, which has been grown in burned off rainforest in the Amazon. And, we need to be very cautious about rushing down a particular route, which could end up with doing more damage to the environment than is actually currently the case.
But
by adopting flawed policies, not based on qualitative innovation and science.
Well, as our young campaigner Anna Kernahan said, read the science. Have you read the science?
I have officials who are reading science. I'm in the department a week. So I have read science. I haven't read it all, but we will continue to work on that.
Yeah, but it is a big change, isn't it? I mean, you are a farmer. You have given up your farming interests in the last couple of days because of obviously there's a potential conflict of interest there. But 80% of our output is meat, dairy, and eggs, and what the climate change people are saying is that that's going to have to change. We're going to have to think again about production.
Well, we're going to have to ensure that the science is correct, because people talk a lot about the methane that the cow emits. And why does a cow emit methane? Because she eats something which is full of carbon. But that carbon is actually captured in the first instance by grass. And the cow is really a recycler of that. But what a lot of people don't recognise is that on a grass-based system where animals are outdoors most of the time, they actually capture an awful lot of the carbon back into the soil, because not all of the grass is eaten. Much of it actually ends up being tramped back into the soil. And we need to ensure that we do have the appropriate science. That's completely different from feedlots in the middle of Germany and large parts of Europe where animals are kept indoors all of the time. Yeah. So the science needs to ensure that it is qualitative, it is identified what carbon capture takes place, as opposed to just blaming the cow for all of the ill.
A lot of these issues could be dealt with by an independent environmental protection agency. There's an oven-ready one, we're told, ready to go by January next year. Are you going to endorse that, give it the rubber stamp?
That's something which was in the New Deal document. It's an aspiration. And it's a course of work.
Well, it's better than an aspiration. I mean, in the UK, it's ready to go. It's going to be there. So we just need to extend it to Northern Ireland. Are you prepared to do that?
I was just saying it's a course of work that we will be engaging in.
Well, I'm sorry, what is the course of work that needs to be done? I mean, it's oven ready, we're told, by people who know about these things.
Well, we're working with the Assembly and we're working with the Executive on bringing all of these things forward.
Do you think we need it? As Minister, do you think that would be a priority of yours?
I think that we already have a significant degree of independence in the NIEA. It's got its own independent board, which monitors its performance. Does it work satisfactorily all of the time? No, it doesn't. Will an independent EPA be the answer to all of our problems? No, it won't. Am I open to the idea of an independent EPA? Yes, I am. But all of these things need to be thought through properly and discussed properly and identified as being the best way forward, and we will seek to go forward. And
an environment strategy that is underway at the moment. The consultation period has been extended. How significant, how important is it that work is brought to an early conclusion?
I would consider that to be of greater importance, and that would be higher up my agenda to get the environment strategy out in this Assembly term. We'll see if we can do both.
Do you favour... I'm sorry, just a couple of questions. We're really running out of time. Do you favour incinerating our excess waste?
I favour recycling more for waste as opposed to incineration.
But given that we send away 200,000 tonnes of waste, we could incinerate it here and produce energy from it.
I think that incineration is not that it is that environmentally damaging, but the problem with incineration is that it requires an awful lot of waste, and I think that there's better ways of dealing with waste than incineration. Some of the greenest countries in the world, Denmark and Germany, etc., heavily use incineration, but I don't know that Northern Ireland has a requirement for it. I'm not convinced of that at all.
Minister, we've run out of time. Thank you very much indeed. Edwin Poots, the Dara Minister.